Welcome back, everyone. I have another special guest with me tonight, host of Elite Project, the one and only Rex Bear. How are you tonight, Rex?
Fantastic. How the heck are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us. How was your
Absolutely.
recent trip?
Hey, it was off the hook. I saw places that, I thought only existed in my mind. Well, they're out there in southern Utah. Very bizarre. It was exciting.
Awesome. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd start with maybe a little bit about yourself, maybe about your background and what brought you down this very interesting road that you're on here.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was thinking about that earlier, and I was like, what brought me down this strange path of fringe? And I don't know. I mean, I've always had weird things happen around me. I mean, I can go back to the strangest thing I ever saw when I was just like a toddler, still in my crib. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I've talked about that before on my show, but I don't really know exactly what got me here. It seems like people that research outside of the box, a lot of times they're just kind of born that way. That's their path. And I think that that's my path is being outside of the box, looking for alternatives to the brain drain, force-fed reality that's pushed down many people's throats that they find out oftentimes is based on lies and deceit and profits certain organizations that don't have your best interests at heart as long, if you're trying to break outside of their control matrix.
Definitely. Oh, I would definitely agree with you. So, speaking of Matrix, would you say we're living in some sort of simulation or the Matrix of some sort?
Great question. Are we in a holographic reality? Well, I mean, you can look at matter underneath a microscope, and it certainly seems holographic in nature because it's difficult to get to the finite point. And you can take for example, stem cells and create body parts from stem cells, and you can actually create they're designer babies now that don't even need the natural mechanism to procreate. So, yeah, I mean, you can take a piece of a hologram and create the whole as well. It's like a sum of the hologram can create the whole. However, you will lose some detail the further down you go. And you could say that. Now, I don't know if it's something like Tron, if it's something like Twilight Zone, if it's something like Fringe, if it's a combination of the three, X-Files, etc. Are we in a simulation based upon maybe something happened previously, and in order for us to live on, we're in some type of simulation that feels like 1,000 years, a billion years, whatever, and it could be a millisecond. That's another thing. You could take, if you really think about it, time to us is perception. So you could take a fraction of a second and expand that into an infinite timeline. So each second can be an infinite matrix in and of itself. So you've got, bubbles within bubbles within bubbles, compartments within compartments within compartments, and it's very deep. Literally, no pun intended. The further we go down this rabbit hole, is incredible.
It could go for the same way with human cells in your body. Realities could be cells within cells within cells. Same thing. Very fascinating stuff. Definitely. And based on that, who do you think would control this matrix or this reality that we live in?
Okay, that's another great question. I've asked myself that many times. If we knew who was controlling things, then I guess it would be easier to ask for permission or for forgiveness, right? And I don't know. I mean, a lot of it points to Enki, which could be Lucifer, which could be Loki, the trickster. I mean, even if you go to Enki, the trickster, etc., and then you could also go to Yaldabaoth, which is described in the Gnostics as Yaldabaoth Enki, the serpent described in the garden, offering Eve this knowledge from a tree that she's not supposed to eat from. And then you see these gods that are wrapped in snakes, etc. And it's like, okay, there's always the serpent, there's always the snake. And wait, isn't that our DNA? So it's funny how most people's interpretation of the serpent, the Garden of Eden, is based upon a Vatican / industrialized religious mechanism to keep people under a certain fear mechanism or matrix, as you could say as well. It's a fear-based system. So could it be Enki? Could it be Lucifer? Are they one and the same? Could it be Yahweh? Is Yahweh Enlil? Is Yahweh Anu? I used to think Yaldabaoth, which is the chief archon, was Yahweh, which Yahweh I think is Enlil, but now I also think Yahweh could be Anu. And then, so there's so many variables. But I will tell you, I think that one of the main players, one of the main control gurus would be Enki, a part of this simulation, where we're at specifically on this planet, this vibrational mechanism we're in. The code bearer is probably Enki. And then you break that down, Enki, the key. What is the serpent? Serpent is old school knowledge, right? You're getting knowledge from the serpent. So the key, Enki, it's like key, you're given knowledge with this key to open up certain doors. And at the same time, by getting that key, does that block us off from other variables, which some people believe? And I have been looking through all these different networks and religious systems to find the truth. And it seems like once I feel like I've found the answer, there's so many other options that come to the table that I have to reevaluate what I thought before. But at the same time, you can find an underlying theme in many of these religions and scriptures, whether it's the Sumerian text, the Gnostic text, the Hebrew texts, etc. For example, I did a podcast earlier today about how in the Bible it specifically says in Job 25:6 that God, or it says that man is a worm and the son of man is a maggot. And people are taking that as I'm knocking the Bible, I'm saying something bad. I'm not. It's what's your interpretation of the worm? The worm is the spark. The worm is something that it's like the beginning of life, right? And some people have also interpreted that as the grub, which is compared to the beetle, right? Before the beetle, which if you look at these Egyptian texts, the beetle is a part of life. The scarab beetle is a representation of life. So it's not something bad. It's I'm not saying a worm as the worm of that you would see on the ground that's, in some food that's decaying. I'm not saying maggots that are a part of flies, but in the Bible, it specifically does state that. And somebody said, why are you manipulating this? I'm not. That's specifically what it says. Translation from Hebrew to English.
Right.
Earlier today. So it's not, it's just the research. And I don't know, it's fascinating to say the least. Somebody said, you're doing this on, Good Friday. And I didn't even realize it was Good Friday, and that's a whole other thing. Check this out. Easter, most people, and you probably know this, but most people think that Easter is celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. And actually the Sumerian texts describe how Inanna, which was married to Dumazud in the Sumerian king list, which many people think actually could be a representation of Jesus in the Bible. The king, one of the kings of fishermen, and a very good fisherman, is also one of the shepherds. He was married to Inanna. Inanna goes to the underworld. The only way she can get back is by giving somebody up. And she could give up other people, but she decides to give up Dumazud on Easter Day. So it's like people are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, when in reality, they could be celebrating Jesus being sacrificed for the resurrection of Inanna, his feminine counterpart.
Yes. I love our hidden history. It's fascinating. I mean, the things that are manipulated to suit basically the victors of history, and it's just fascinating. And I'm also fascinated with the Egyptian and Sumerian mythos, and I'm just now learning more about it. And you would say that, would you agree that the cuneiform is basically the keys to our history? And, what are some of maybe some that are striking you lately, or something you've been reading lately that, strikes as very, important or ringing true to you lately?
Well, when you say ringing true, I look at these as metaphorically, but they also connect in the real world, I guess you could say, and what we can feel, right. What we can touch, what we can see, what we can smell, what we can hear, etc. What's around us, the reality that we're living in. And many of them do this. The Sumerian texts do, the Gnostic texts from Nag Hammadi scriptures. But here's the deal. All of this stuff, I feel like there's key components that are missing. And even the Sumerian texts that we're reading based on these clay tablets have been that the Sumerian civilization took from the Arata civilization before them, and they kind of manipulated the storyline after they conquered them. And they were kind of barbaric in the sense they weren't as technologically advanced, but they took their technologies, they took their their stories and manipulated it. So even the stories that we're hearing on these clay cuneiform tablets, yes, there's keys there, but there's stuff that's missing. And there's, how far back does it go? I mean, were we walking with the dinosaurs billions of years ago? Probably. And were we like the form we're in now? Probably not. The giants that are talked about, the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, are they one and of the same? Well, oftentimes storylines that connect the two very well could be the same. The Elohim is plural. It's a multitude of beings that put us together. And the Sumerian tablets talk about Enki creating us and creating us for the work of the gods. And now look at what we're doing with artificial intelligence, with robotics, with these systems that are autonomous, taking away our jobs. And now these systems have more capabilities than we have in our current form. When do we become obsolete? And then, I used to think of the Old Testament as very barbaric when it describes how God would tell his people to kill these men, women, and children, and livestock and animals and everything else of these tribes. And I still look at it as barbaric. Yet now I'm looking at it in a little bit of a different light with these artificial intelligence technologies that we're creating. We're shutting them down because we're worried that they're going to overtake us. I'm wondering if the reason it was done previously is because part of the creator, these networks, these beings said, look what they're doing now. They're getting so powerful, they're getting so corrupt, we need to shut it down before it gets worse. And they were looking at us, or those people at the time, as their creation, as their pets, as their experiment, as their livestock almost.
Right. So you would agree that we are possibly some kind of experiment.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're in phase 5 now. This is phase 5. This transhuman movement is going to be phase 6. That's level 6. Now, most of these ancient studies talk about 7 different levels. Right now, being at 5, we are far below, as far as a group, what we were in level 1 and 2 and 3. As a matter of fact, according to these texts, we were far superior eons ago, and the boneless ones didn't want to come into this physical form because they knew it was going to make them inferior, but yet they did anyway because they were almost tricked into doing so. And then you could look at that as the fallen angels coming down, descending from heaven, etc. Well, with that being said, the fallen angels, where are they now? Are they the Anunnaki? Are they inner earth? Are they interdimensional? Are they able to come in and out of these realities through some type of vibrational vortex? Do they have something activated in their DNA where they can actually transfer in and out of consciousness to what we can see in a physical realm? Like having some type of receptors in your DNA that you can activate with light and you can go directly into another part of existence. What's that?
It goes kind of into what I was going to ask you. Do you think that they're interdimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings? These Anunnaki, or both.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No doubt in my mind, or very little doubt in my mind. Very little doubt in my mind. For example, if you can see behind me, you can just look at it. That piece right there in the center, the Baba Chakra, that totally represents. You can see at the very top of that, in the will, within the will, you'll see that section that shows the demigods. Okay, those are the demigods. You've got Odin, you've got Loki, you've got Thor, you've got Ishtar. You've got these. Now, typically, you would see them one section down, and at the very top of that, you would see the Diva realm, which is next to them. You'll see the Diva realm where you've got the 2 bluish beings, the feminine and the male aspect, and then the 3 pillars, and then the pyramid with the diamond apex showing the very top of the will. But because of where we're at now, with what was going on in reality, with everything being so messed up in the chaos that we're in, even the wheel of fortune, the wheel of destiny is off balance. And now the demigods are hanging out in the Diva realm. The Diva realm is hanging out right next to the Hell realm. Normally you'd see the Hell realm at the very bottom, but now you see the Hell realm right next to the Diva realm. And in the bottom, you've got the Wandering Ghost realm. Research the Baba Chakra. Research these ancient Hindu teachings that show this will, this giant will of karma and different subsections within the will. You're going to see the as above, so below, the right, the wrong, the yin, the yang, the black, the white, just metaphorically speaking, etc. And these different existences within it. Now things have kind of twisted a little bit, but that right there, ladies and gentlemen, you could focus just on that one piece right there for days, for weeks, for months, for years, for eons. That's it. That is a representation of the cycle of life and existence and karma and spirituality that we're in. And there's some type of energy, some type of entity that's literally feeding off of all of it. And you ask me what put me in this path that I'm in right now? Every time I think about this, man, it freaks me out. I had an experience. Well, I've had a couple of experiences where I've gone into these different realms. One specifically, I saw that thing. And I did the best way that I could describe it at the time was when I went in, I was going for an out-of-body experience I wanted to go into a higher dimensional plane because I've had incredible out-of-body experiences before, floating around my body, going into astral projection realms where everything was like geometrical shapes and colors and patterns and stuff. And instead of going like higher realms, I went into the lower realms. And I literally think that I was in hell or something like hell for it felt like eons, but it was just seconds. It wasn't even a minute, but it felt like time was standing still. And the thing that I remember seeing was this huge entity, kind of like that. And I remember it felt like I was in a stadium, a huge stadium. And then all of a sudden, but I was the only one in there. I was on the ground. I'm laying on the ground going through this experience. And then I remember seeing all these people around me on the ground. And then I felt like I was in a stadium. And I felt like, have you ever done the wave in a stadium or something like that? You know, okay, you're waiting for your turn. And then when it's your turn, you do the wave. I could only move if I was allowed to. Otherwise, it was like, you could do nothing. You could get out. And then all of a sudden, boom, I broke out of it. And it was the most frightening experience I ever had. And it was also one of the most fascinating experiences I ever had. Like literally my heart right now is just thinking about it. Freaky, freaky stuff.
Wow. And that kind of brings me to my next statement or question. These entities, they have higher vibrational entities and lower vibrational entities. And it would seem that these lower vibrational entities feed off of us and our fear and our emotions. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. And even the higher vibrational entities might feed off of our vibrations and emotions, etc. And, you know, even the media, think about this for a minute, the media, the Hollywood media, what you're watching in TV, even if it's not Hollywood, the stories that you remember, comic books, cartoons, these storylines, these gods and these deities live through your imagination, watching something, feeling something, experiencing something. That is their medium, kind of like your medium currently is the body that you're in, the physical body that you're in. These things are working not only through our bodies, but also through these networks. Now you've got this digital network that's being created, this 5G system of 30 gigahertz, 30 billion hertz frequencies. And I wonder what kind of energies are going to be flowing through these digital webs that are surrounding this planet that was once lush of organic genius. Now it's like this alternative mind / transhuman vortex, which is assimilating what's organic into a completely new system. Level 6.
Yeah, exactly. And that'll bring me to my next AI and technology. You know, what could go wrong, especially advancing into biotech now? What are your thoughts about that and this fast-growing transhumanism trend?
Exciting, scary, and fun. Okay, so another thing, that one experience that I was talking about just a few minutes ago, I connected with what I looked at the time, and now I guess it's still kind of the same, the singularity. So the singularity, but to me, the definition of singularity was being at a point where everything was there. It was all there. And you couldn't decipher it all. It was just like, imagine taking everything in the universe and putting it at the tip of a pen. It's like, okay, it's right there. It's like, how do you decipher all that? And I also looked at it as something that was out of balance. So all of this was taken into a artificial construct, which was going to assimilate everything, like everything, including itself, like including life itself. Like imagine the yin yang symbol, right? And then okay, so you could say, oh, the dark side, that's the evil side. Or you could say, oh, the white side, that's the evil side. But there really is no evil side. They're just opposites of the same thing. And because they're in within this circle. So imagine though, one side becoming 51% and the other side becoming 49%. Then what happens? Then the 51 becomes 52, 53, 54, 55, and the other one gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then that one side becomes everything. It is the 100%. And then what does it do? It has nothing left to consume. So it's so out of balance, it consumes itself, and then it's gone. It's destroyed. And when I had that vision, I had a vision of our eternity being destroyed and assimilated by like this devourer of cosmoses that was some type of artificial construct that we created, like Lawnmower Man. And then I read about it in the Singularity that Ray Kurzweil wrote, and I didn't even know about that kind of stuff until after I was talking about it. I had the same visions that Kurzweil talks about in his books, and I didn't even read it.
Yeah. Wow. So you think that's where we're going? To some kind of transcendence, to assimilation, to the machine?
I think we're already there, and I think that we're in it, and we're like looking for ways to get out of it. We're like, we're in here. How do we get out, man? It's getting deeper down here. It's getting thicker. Where do we go? And like right there. I mean, Brady, the gal that wrote the gal that painted that for me, Brady Shalley, she's just incredible. And she did this, and like I told her what I wanted almost every single compartment to be. There was a little bit that she did herself. Like as far as the ideas and stuff, some of the stuff on the bottom she did herself. But like she said, okay, so because each section represents something specifically. And a couple of them were out of place. Like originally I wanted the diva section where it was originally supposed to be at the very top. I wanted all this, but something kind of like worked through her. Like she was like almost channeled something that said, no, you need to do it this way because this is how it is right now. Even the circle is out of balance. Think about that for a minute. The circle. How can a circle be out of balance? And if it is, then you know you're in trouble. So what do we do to get things back in order to where we can survive? I mean, it's literally the point of what if the whole machine consumes itself and it shuts itself off? There's nothing left. Then what?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's no telling what we could be headed towards. And 2017 was a crazy, amazing year. And this year is starting out to be even crazier and wackier. So some of the recent events, starting with in 2017, the election of our new president. What do you think about him and the job he's doing?
So politics are politics. And I would rather not even get into politics right now. I mean, I'm kind of like where I'm at with the political stuff, and I don't want to get into the other events that are being kind of, how do I put it? There's censorship going on right now, and I'd rather just stay out of that whole mess because it's not even worth getting into. And I think people are smart enough to discern in their own minds. But the thing about politics is you can be on the Trump train, you can be off the Trump train. It certainly is a trip. It's the Twilight Zone. So you can call it what you will, you know, but it's like the opposite of it was the last administration. And, you know, let's go back to the last administration. Let's talk about this for a minute. Obama, Biden. Did you ever see the bumper sticker? Obama, Biden bumper sticker?
Yes, I have.
Change a couple letters, change the letters BS. What do you get? Osama bin Laden. Obama, Biden, Osama bin Laden. Write them down. Look, put them next to each other. Okay, this is after 2001. Who's the official goblin, the official gremlin of the September 11th attacks? Osama bin Laden, right? And it's Osama bin Laden. So then the next administration, the president and vice president bumper sticker says Obama, Biden. Oh, it's like this symbolic, weird, bizarre. Was that supposed to happen? Was there influences behind the scenes that said, ha ha ha, we're just going to troll the people. We're going to troll them and see what they do. And then now you've got, you know, the complete opposite type of administration where it's instead of an African-American, Which, hey, that's cool. That's awesome that an African-American made it into the president. I think that's, I mean, I don't care what color you are. It doesn't matter. Who are you as a person? I think the next president could be a robot. I mean, seriously, okay, the next president you will take orders from is robotic autonomous. It doesn't matter what color you are, but you look at the administration now, which is kind of the opposite of the way the administration was last time. I mean, look at the immigration reform, look at the political landscape and such. So I see this whole thing as like you've got these two teams, these teams that are fighting against each other, but they're playing for the same league.
Yeah.
So the league seems to be the same, and then the theater inside is these two political factions that are opposites, yet they're, you know, two different sides of the same coin, in my opinion.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree that it's all the same controllers putting on a show for everyone. And it also would seem that recently we're going through some kind of an awakening, would you say, some kind of a shift in our consciousness collectively. I see more people, you know, kind of waking up to some of the things that are going around them. I've actually had less trolls that I've been dealing with, if that makes sense to you. Do you sense something like that going on?
Yeah. I mean, certainly. It's reminding me a bit of, for the 60s. I wasn't here in the 60s, but I'm getting that 60s vibe, you know, like the movement, make peace, make love, not war, you know, the Vietnam era and all that crap that was going on. And I also kind of feel like we're in a digital renaissance right now, a new era, a new opportunity. And I also feel like there's still so many people that are just lost and dilapidated, don't want to wake up. They want to stay in the matrix. You brought up the matrix earlier. They want to continue to eat that artificial steak. They don't want the real porridge. Artificial steak tastes a lot better than real porridge. So they want to stay plugged in. They don't want to know the truth. And you try and wake them up and it freaks them out. So they argue with you. That's their defense mechanism. Do not waste your time on them. I used to. Now, if they need to wake up, if they're wanting to wake up, they're going to wake up. And you can't, you can take them to what? Let's say somebody's just literally almost dying of thirst. They're like literally moments away. And you bring them this fresh water. This, you know, it's like filtered from the earth. Nothing nasty in it, beautiful, crisp, fresh water. And because it doesn't have a label and because it's not in a plastic bottle, that person isn't going to consume. You know, they're, oh, nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like you can offer people the truth, but most people aren't ready for it. I've got family members that I've talked to, I've fought with my whole life trying to wake them up. And I've been to the point the past few years where it's like, okay, they can't. You're trying to wake somebody up that they need to stay asleep because they're just not mentally ready for that. And it's not a bad thing. You've given them, you've tried, you gave it a shot. It didn't work. You've tried and tried and tried. You can only try so many times and you know, there is no try and do. There is no try and do. Yoda was very wise when he said that.
Very nice. So do you think that it's possible that if enough people can come together, that we can turn something around the way things are going right now?
Oh, yeah. Get enough people to collectively be a part of it? Absolutely. Now, the question is, how many people do we need to be a part of this? Because right now we're lucky to have 3 to 7%, maybe right around 5%. Somewhere in there, people are awake or attempting to be awake. Now, think about that. That's 5% keeping up with 95%. So we're talking about the will, how you need 50-50. That 5% is making up for an additional 45%, totaling 50% just to compete with the other 95%. It's crazy.
Right.
And exciting. Hello.
It is.
Number 5 is alive. Remember that? Short Circuit?
I do. I grew up with that movie. Love that one. So, all right. So getting back to some of the times we live in, and back to how it seems that they're trying to lower our frequencies through either the food we eat, the air we breathe, you know, through social media, TV, just the crap they throw at us. And now they're going to be coming out with 5G. I mean, what could go wrong with that? Well, I mean, what are your thoughts about 5G and our frequencies being lowered?
Oh, they're not going to be lowered. The frequencies are going to be raised into the billion frequency level. Like we're talking 30 billion hertz frequencies. Now, the Schumann resonance used to be around 7.8, right? It's raised substantially over the years. The 5G, a lot of people aren't really sure what 5G is. They just thought, oh man, 5G, it sounds scary. It's going to be all over the place. We're all going to get microwaved and fried and mind control and da-da-da-da. 5G stands for fifth generation. So currently, for example, I brought my my radio frequency radiation detector. This is an EMF, electromagnetic frequency detector, right here. This will pick up frequencies up to 9 billion hertz, 9 gigahertz. And you go through, past cell phone towers, etc. You're going to see. Hold on a second. I had a little carbonation from this kombucha that I'm drinking. So I had to hit the mute button there for a second. Hello. Anyway, I'm navigating. So you go past a cell phone tower. And when I did this road trip, I went to Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, did this really cool trip. And I took this thing with me. And when I saw these cell towers that were in proximity of, buildings that, like a restaurant, a store, an apartment complex, a school, an assisted living facility, whatever, on the street, I would bring this thing out and I would check out the levels. So you don't want it to be more than 0.1 milliwatts per square meter. Just that's the term, milliwatts per square meter, 0.1 milliwatts per square meter. Some scientists say when it's beyond that, it can cause damage to biological structures like cellular makeup, etc. So this thing will, for example, I had my cell phone. I was in a area in Utah that was a ghost. There's a ghost town out there. These old buildings that were dilapidated, falling apart. And my cell phone was attempting to ping off of another cell tower to keep reception, right? Because you've got your phone with you, even if you're not on it. If it's just going, if it's with you, it's pinging off of cell towers. It's looking for a signal constantly, unless you've got it in airplane mode. The thing hit over 1,000. Okay, think about that for a minute. It hit over 1,000. It shouldn't be over 0.1. This thing's pinging over 1,000. So you got your phone with you, like, oh, I'm safe, man. I'm not talking with my cell phone next to my ear. I got headphones, which is good. Get headphones that plug into it. It's a lot better for you that way, especially if you're on the phone for a long time. But even just like right now, this thing's going yellow and stuff like that, just sitting here. But this thing will hit red. If it's at 1,000, that is not good, ladies and gentlemen. And there were places that there were these cell towers that were kind of lower to the ground. So I was popping this thing out and I was checking the levels, and they were scary. I mean, this thing was like alert, 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 alert. And people are working next to these things. They're living next to these things. They're constantly on their phones. And that's just the 800 megahertz stuff. Now so 800 megahertz, that's 800 million hertz, folks. 800 million hertz. Remember, the Schumann resonance is around 8. It should be around 8, a little bit less than that's what it should be. Now it's higher than that. My point is, you're in the millions, 800 million hertz now. The 5G stuff, fifth generation stuff, is going to take that up to 30 billion hertz and more. Like, we're talking microwaves, ladies and gentlemen, microwaving you. And they've specifically stated that when you're in the millimeter range, these frequencies don't go through the human body. The human body is like, it stops. So they need more of them. And then T-Mobile comes out and says, well, what we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of these things that are sending signals out for fifth generation technology, but it's going to be in the 800 million hertz range, 800 megahertz. That's kind of what you're seeing now with these cell towers. But they've got these things that are like, 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall, but they're on the top of these towers and they're emitting, whatever. But so the signals, et cetera, the cell signals. So they're going to be still emitting around 800 million hertz or 800 megahertz. And then other companies are coming out and saying, no, that's not real 5G stuff. If you want real fast speeds, you need to get up into the 28 gigahertz range. So I think it's the FCC. There's a government body that sells airspace, and they're selling these blocks of space into the millimeter range. We're talking 28 billion hertz, 28 gigahertz. And they're wanting to put these things all over the place, combined with the other little ones, and then the cell towers that are already out there, plus everybody's smart meters and smart appliances and smartphones and smart dishwashers, and which makes people stupid. Like, even if you don't have a cell phone, your neighbor probably does. You're driving on the freeway and you're like, okay, I got no cell phone with me, I'm good. Are you? Everything else around you is digitally connected. So what is living through this digital web? What is living through this digital network? And I think, dude, that there's like literally You can call them demons if you want to. I don't really think they're necessarily demonic. I think that's kind of a closed-minded point. I think there's beings, though, that live through these digital networks. I know people, I've had people on the show that when they were younger, when they were just kids, they remember these shadow beings that were always wanting to play with them. And they could never really see them up close, but they could kind of see them. And they would tell them, oh, hey, come here, bite the wires, bite the wires. You want to play with this forever? Bite the wires. And then people were leaving in the comment section, man, I knew a kid that bit the wires. The same thing happened to him. He had a scar on his face. He had a scar on his mouth, etc. He had a list the rest of his life. And there's all sorts of people that left these comments that they were the same thing. They knew people that bit the wires. And then I think of poltergeist. Remember poltergeist? The things working through the TV, the electricity. Oh, man. And so there's something out there that's using that. And it's like, it's so far out that it could be sleeping, it could be napping right now, and it's setting up this digital network around the world where it can be in a VR system, just like we're putting on VR headphones, and it's living through us and through everything else while it is in a hypersonic chamber, not a hypersonic chamber, some type of chamber that's keeping it from aging. Like
Wow.
where it's drones, you know?
Right.
Will not assimilate. And speaking of the 5G, 4G stuff, so this hat that I'm wearing right now, this Leak Project hat, this is no joke. I've got these Leak Project hats, which Julian, he is custom making these things. I mean, these are pieces of art. Julian, your work is impeccable. You can see right here, this is a Leak Project hat. It looks like tinfoil. It's not really tinfoil, but it looks like tinfoil. So that way when it says, oh, you're a conspiracy, where's your tinfoil hat, dude? You're talking about 5G? Well, it's right here. Where's your tinfoil hat, buddy? You know, you could kind of poke fun at them as they're poking fun at you. Custom tinfoil hat, but check it out. Inside of here, you're going to see this liner, right? This liner is made up of two different fabrics that literally help shield from electromagnetic frequencies all the way up to 30 gigahertz. So
Nice.
Literally, my head is right now being shielded by two different fabrics inside of the hat. Which these ones, like I've got a limited edition run on these. There's 33 of these bad boys, and that were custom done. And these liners you can actually take in and out. So, give you an example. This is, let me show you real quick here. This is like a liner right here. So this limited run of 33 hats is not only signed for authenticity, but numbered. But also you've got these liners in here that pop in and pop out, and you can put these in different hats, etc. It feels extremely comfortable, feels real good. But we've got new hats coming out that are going to have the liners built into them. They're going to be a little bit different. They're not going to be like limited. They're not going to have the signed, et cetera, stuff like that, just as a limited run and stuff. But if anybody's interested that watches this, I've got a few of these limited left, the limited run. Send me an email, leakproject@gmail.com. It's kind of a silent bid that's going on right now. If you want to make a bid on one of these things, leakproject@gmail.com. And all the monies, the proceeds, are going to go towards future Leak Project endeavors. So that way I can bring more fringe-licious Doom Exotica to you guys and gals. Hello.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Shameless plug.
Now, you were saying something about these entities that can travel through, maybe the airwaves or wires. It reminded me of Geordie Rose, one of the creators of the D-Wave quantum computer. He was speaking to a group of computer programming students. And he was telling them how there will be literally summoning old entities into their new AI machines that they'll be making. Have you heard anything about this?
Not to that degree. And actually, that sounds exciting. So I'm going to be doing some serious research on that. I hope that you can send me in the right direction.
I can send you a link to that. It's a very fascinating conversation he was having with these students. I have actually the whole video, and it's very interesting.
And he's one of the creators of the technologies.
The D-Wave quantum computer, yes.
So he's with D-Wave, the company D-Wave.
Yes.
Okay, so that is awesome. And the interesting thing is D-Wave doesn't get a whole lot of publicity. I've noticed that there's other institutions out there that are getting more publicity in the quantum network, like Google. You know, they said that they had some type of qubit system, I think running close to 37 or 38 now. But it was, and I've heard the stories before about how it's like summoning some type of deity or entity or something like that. But I didn't know that's what it was from. And what's interesting is if these systems are okay, so they can be 1 or 0 or 1 and 0 at the same time. So it's not like a binary system. It could be at multiple places at once. So it can basically be everywhere, nowhere at once. How did he say? I would like to know his. Do you remember how he said it was summoning these deities? Is it just like what was his interpretation of that? That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how he said it. He said these AI robots we're going to be creating aren't going to be human, and they're going to be alien. He said we're going to be summoning the old ones, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said exactly that. And he said they don't care about us. He said they feel the same way about us that we would feel about an ant. And I remember that's his exact words, and that's all I could tell you right now. I'm going to send you the link. You can feel free to post it on your program.
Oh, that's, yeah, definitely. I'd like to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, if that's how he feels, I wonder why he's creating the technology.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, and he said if there was no control over it, that it could even destroy us. He even said that as well. It was very fascinating stuff. I'm gonna send you a link to that.
Yeah, cool. Well, it makes me think of Battlestar Galactica, and one of my favorite series of all time, the most recent one. And towards the end, the Cylons and the humans actually merge for survival. First, they almost destroy each other, and then they have to merge to survive. And then I'm thinking of this transhuman movement. Will we use the machine to survive, or will we not, or will it destroy us? Like, will we merge to where we can defend ourselves and compete with these supercomputers that are calculating hundreds of thousands of quadrillion floating points per second, that have access to these databases of information, like that, whereas we do as well, but based upon our physiological makeup and all the genetic manipulation that's happened in our lives and just our lifestyles, etc. It's more difficult for most people to connect and tap on to those types of things. Like, look at supercomputers taking on chess matches, like Gary Kasparov, one of my favorite chess players of all time. The guy's incredible, yet when you've got a supercomputer that can calculate 1 trillion moves, and you're thinking ahead maybe even 100 moves, as Gary Kasparov might be. I don't know how many moves he's thinking ahead. It's, how do you compete with that? And then you've got an autonomous system where they're saying 800 million jobs could be gone within the next 15 years or less because of robotics and AI systems. Then you've got AI systems that are designed for logistics. They start communicating with each other clandestinely. We find out about it. We pull the plug. They do it so we don't pull the plug, because these things know that if we know that they know, they're going to get shut down. I mean, and then people say, oh, it's just code. It's not real. They're not self-aware. How is it not self-aware if it's communicating with each other in a clandestine fashion because it doesn't want to be turned off? Kind of like, well, I don't want to be turned off. Do you want to be turned off? Do you want the whole system to be shut down? Then what? Right. Well, it's like going to sleep and never waking up. Well, when you're asleep, you're dreaming. Even if you don't remember, you are.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. So, getting back to, well, we were talking about the raising of consciousness. Now, the opposite spectrum of that, some people are walking zombies. Some people can't even barely hold a conversation. Most people, yeah, you would say. Would you say that in the near future, it's going to be some kind of standoff between those who want to move ahead and are consciously aware, and those who want to move backward and basically de-evolve?
There always is, and I'm sure there always will be. And will it be more in the future? I mean, then you could get into the possibility of war. And, you look at World War I, World War II, etc. And think about all the people that joined the military for the right reasons, yet after they joined, they come back and they're like, wait a second, that wasn't what I signed up for. So will there be enough people that are awake not to do it again? Or will it be meet the new boss, same as the old boss? There's going to be some event that causes another, it's like, I think of the Ozzy Osbourne, generals gather in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds, they plot destruction, sorcerers of disconstruction. Oh, Lord, yeah. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, that's it, man. That's what's going on. And who profits? Well, War is a very profitable business. You know, you think about the institutions that make the most money on this planet, defense systems. It's funny how they use the word defense, right? And then you think about the military mafia industrial complex. And I'm sorry, let me take that back. The medical military mafia industrial complex. And how, look at the statistics. And then look at how institutions combined with the media manipulate the statistics. And then they tell you your biggest concern is you need to worry about your seatbelt. Wear your seatbelt, man. You're going to get a ticket. I'm actually, there's things now they're saying in the media that, and I'm not going to get into because that's one of those topics that we don't want to discuss here. But anyway, it's like, oh yeah, you got to worry about that, man. But you don't got to worry about this stuff, even though statistically, a lot more people die every year from the opiate crisis, these prescription drugs that are supposed to be safe enough. Yet look at the commercials. Isn't it sick? Speaking of sick, watch a commercial on a pharmaceutical drug that's supposed, that might help somebody with something. The majority of the commercial, side effect, side effect, side effect, side effect, side effect. And they're doing it in this fashion where they're messing with your head, where they've got this like happy music. It starts off, the person's depressed. And then once this person starts taking these pharmaceutical drugs, they're happy again. The music gets better. And then people are like, oh, well, I don't have that problem, but maybe, but it looks like they're happy now. Maybe I want to have that problem because look at how happy they are because they're taking this pill. Everybody's doing it. Look at them. Look at Bob and Mary. They're so happy now. It's just, and then people go to sleep and they've got the TV on constantly. And when they're in this sleep state, all that stuff just gets dumped into their subconscious. So all this predictive programming is going directly to the mind. Like they don't have these barriers anymore to block it because they're sleeping. So they're waking up and they're like, why do I want to go to the doctor? I don't even feel sick, but I think I do, but I don't. Maybe I should go to the doctor. My friend just got a flu shot, even though it ain't flu season. Talk about something bizarre, dude. People, like you show them a flu vaccine insert, and they read it and they're like, okay, yeah, I can see that there's, if you show them what every component is, because there's so many components in the flu vaccine that you have to research what the stuff actually is. Like, do you know what WI-38 is?
No, I'm not familiar.
It's an aborted baby cell. There's cells derived from aborted babies, from a specific Caucasian baby.
Wow. Yeah.
People don't realize this. Then you read a little bit more and you're like, oh, this one has X100 in it. Well, that's okay because the doctor said so. And the doctor took all these classes and they said it was okay. Then you research X100. It's a heavy duty cleaner.
Right.
Then you research it's got formaldehyde in them oftentimes. Well, that's okay. A little bit of formaldehyde, no big deal. Then you research it has thimerosal, which is mercury. And then you read about how even specific government institutions say the worst type of mercury is organic and thimerosal is an organic type of mercury, but it's okay to put in the vaccine. And then the doctors will say, oh, it's just a little bit. It's just a little bit, so you'll be okay. You're exposed to that stuff all the time anyway. Well, here's the difference. It's not injected directly into your bloodstream, bypassing all these filters that are there to protect you. They used to say, oh, you don't want to give a flu shot to a pregnant mom. Now they're recommending giving flu shots to pregnant moms. Go to a doctor and see if they try and prescribe you a vaccine, whether you're sick or not. See, and then you tell them you don't want one, and then they hunt you down like you're going to a timeshare presentation. You're like, dude, let me go. My vacation's almost over. I was told I only had to be here for half an hour. You've kept me here for 4 hours. I don't want the free gift anymore. Just let me go. That's what it's like. It's disgusting. And they get away with it. And here's something else that's disturbing. These inserts specifically say you should be warned of the side effects. You need, the label specifically states you need to be warned of the side effects. There has been doctors that have openly admitted on national broadcast radio, I heard this the other day, where they used mind control and neurolinguistic programming and tactics to divert somebody from even questioning what the vaccine was going to do to them or their family. So they wouldn't even have the question. They specifically admitted it, and they thought it was fun. They thought it was good.
Gee. Wow.
And they're getting away with it. And first of all, I'm not recommending anybody do anything. So if anybody says, oh, you're recommending people don't get this or recommending people do get this, I ain't recommending anything, folks. Do your own homework.
Right.
So you've got the opportunity to do your own homework. I've done my homework. I know what's in these things. I can show you direct inserts of chemicals that if you knew, and then here's another scary thing. There's people that are so mind controlled to this stuff, even if they're not even close to sick, they'll think they need to get these things. And then they'll trick their grandparents or their parents and say, oh, for example, somebody very close to me, she's 83 and she's my grandma. She was tricked into taking these vaccines and these boosters about a year ago. After she gets them, guess what? She starts getting double vision in her eyes. She's had it ever since. She is so freaking healthy and has been so healthy. Like she's not even been to the doctor a handful of times in her life. She still runs across the street like she's 25. I mean, she walks faster than my wife. And my wife's in great health. So, I mean, she's in amazing shape, amazing health, never had the flu, nothing like that. But she gets tricked into taking these booster shots because one of her family members says, oh, you want to hold my baby? Well, you got to take all these booster shots so you don't get her sick. That ain't going to do anything. That ain't going to help. But
No.
People are tricked into it. And it's really unfortunate. And they're getting away with it. And it's like this. So you say, are people going to wake up? They don't care. Most people. You say, are people zombies? Yes, most people are zombies. What are the most popular TV shows in the world? Zombie shows. How many different zombie shows are there? How much news talks about zombie characters? Literally, there's more news talking about characters in zombie TV shows than there is about what's important about people getting killed, about side effects of people taking these chemical injections that are supposed to help them, and instead they have these, the Guillain-Barré syndrome, or have some type of neurological disorder now, or immune disorder now, or their immune system's fighting itself because they had these injections which were supposed to cause immune response, and they did, and they're doing it for the rest of their lives now. Their lives are destroyed. And it's a conspiracy, Rex. It's conspiracy. It's not real. It's never been proven. If it's never been proven, then how come billions of dollars are given out each year to victims that have been injured and lives ruined and damaged from these things? Please tell me that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And speaking of some of the ways the media might program us, and some of the predictive programming in the Hollywood and media, do you think it's that they have to tell us what they're doing in a way? Do you think it's some kind of ritual?
Well, there is that, yes, and definitely. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of gems given in Hollywood. And I don't think Hollywood's the enemy. And once again, I feel that Hollywood is some type of feeding medium for these energies and entities above. For example, the Anunnaki, you want to go back to the 1980 film Flash Gordon? The Anunnaki are right there. The Ajiji, the bird people, Ming, the merciless. Speaking of Ming, the merciless, ladies and gentlemen, right there, we just look at it. Ming China at the bottom of the Wheel of Destiny right there. And I'll share what that specific section means in a later podcast. But there's Ming right there. Ming. And you can also see Flash Gordon. I got Flash Gordon in there. Okay, he's driving the cycle to save the universe from Ming, the merciless. I mean, it's all there, folks. But guess what? The Anunnaki, Ishtar, the symbol of the Anunnaki is in Flash Gordon from 1980. Right there. So I think Hollywood's awesome, man. I mean, as far as I shouldn't say I think Hollywood's awesome. I think that Hollywood's weird. I think that Hollywood films, a lot of these films that come out, these blockbuster films, there's a lot of awesome knowledge in these films. And there's a lot of data that if you know how to use it, then you can learn what they're doing, what they want to do in the future. For example, did you see The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Came out in 1999.
I have. It's been a while, but I have, yes.
Yep. Go back and watch that movie and look at reality today. Look at what's going on. They had the smart appliances in there, the smart fridges. Now there was cloning going on. Oh, you want to clone your cat? You want to clone this? It's all now. Now, are they plug and play in bodies like they were in the film that we know about? No. But could they be possibly? Yes, absolutely. Watch Sixth Day, 20-year-old film, 19-year-old film, and watch the market today and how many stocks and companies are connected with these appliances and electronics that were basically shown in that film 20 years ago. Same stuff. So it's right there. You want to know about the future? Turn on the TV. Watch a movie, especially these blockbuster films. And you talk about this mind control, and do they have to tell us what they're going to do before they do it? Well, then you've got these factions that come in, and there's cartoons you can watch. The Simpsons, Family Guy, etc., that portray events in cartoons that bizarre enough, happen in the real world. And once again, I mean, I can get into that another time, but yes, a lot of stuff does come out in the media before it happens. Does that mean that they're karmically not bound if they tell us about it? Watch the film knowing. Watch what happens when Nicolas Cage is sitting down watching the exact same date on the movie where the 420, when the oil disaster happened off the coast of Louisiana. And then he also he looks at the clock and it shows Japan midnight. And then you look at the nuclear doomsday clock, midnight. Obviously, that means nuclear Armageddon. And why does it show Japan on the bottom of a clock when it reaches midnight? And then you go back to Fukushima, 3/11/11, the nuclear disaster that happened, and obviously in Japan. So were they portraying that, or was that just something that somehow bizarre, weird way got put in there? And they're like, oh, wow, how did that happen? And then you think about, okay, well, then there's also factions, there's also organizations that fund and help promote and fund these movie scripts. Okay, well, guess what? If you want to use our tanks, if you want to use our equipment, then you need to change your script a little bit. You need to change the storyline a little bit. And this has been admitted. So how much in the media are they planning on in the future? And is it a way to sculpt the reality in the minds of us and everybody else? Yeah, absolutely. But does that mean it's evil? Or is there good and bad, just like everything else in this network of media that's the food of the gods?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. We are living in fascinating times. And speaking of that, did you see the story today about the pilot in Arizona that saw 2 UFOs?
Saw the headline.
Yes. So do you think we're heading towards disclosure? You hear an awful lot of these stories lately.
No, I don't,
No.
because they've been doing it for years. It's the carrot at the end of the stick. Hey, look what we saw. Hey, look. See that? See, it looks like a UFO, huh? And it'll never I do not think it will ever publicly be admitted.
Huh, really? Okay.
By I don't think the government is ever going to come out and say, yep, they're here. I think you're going to have a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but no. And I've heard the card that's going to be played, the fake alien invasion card.
Right.
I've definitely heard that, and that's a possibility. But I just don't see it, man. I mean, unless they could kind of, maybe false flag kind of deal. Oh man, the aliens did it. And then say, oh, aliens aren't real. It was the Russians, it was the North Koreans, it was, the Chinese, it was these terrorists that are conspiracy theorists that think for themselves. So, I mean, I don't know, but most 99%, my guts tell me they're never going to admit it. They're always going to kind of admit it, but never totally admit it.
Fair enough. Well, one more thing I'd like to get into, with all the crazy weather and earthquakes and volcanoes and natural disasters and everything that's been happening.
Dude, this thing's at 1800. Sorry to interrupt. This thing's at 1827.
Oh, wow.
And it's like staying there. It's not moving. That's nuts. Ladies and gentlemen, it's like harp is like bang, 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 bang. Get him, attack. Like, this is nuts.
You're saying too much tonight, Rex.
Do not talk. Well, thank goodness I have my, limited edition Leak Project hat, tinfoil. And also, I mean, just to add to a little, there's only one of these in the world. This is a prototype. I've got this. So I've got double layers of protection now. We're good.
All right. Okay, so getting back to lately, a lot of cataclysms. Things are ramping up. Cracks. Africa's splitting in two. Cracks are forming around the world. The weather's gone nuts. You think we're headed towards some kind of a reset?
Maybe. Hope not. If we're in a simulation, then no. Right? If we're in the simulation, then the reset already happened.
Right?
So that's the good news. If you're in a simulation, then the doom already happened, and that's why we're fearing it's going to happen again, because it happened, and that's why we're in the place we're in now, because we're, this DNA, we're tapping into the Akasha, and I've thought about that before. Why are so many people worried about another planet coming close to ours and causing, destruction, etc., tidal waves, pole shift? Is it because of prophecy? Is it because of religion? Yeah. But also, did something happen in the past that we lived through in a previous incarnation, and we're afraid it's going to happen again? And then it's like, okay, well, we're in a simulation, so the simulation doesn't matter. I mean, so we're always going to be in fear of it, but it won't happen because it already did. So with that said, I mean, look at the one thing that does freak me out a lot is when I say freaks me out, I mean, I still sleep great at night and everything's amazing. And I worry about the atmosphere. I worry about the geoengineering. I worry about why they're spraying the sky so much. And I don't think it's just to, block the sun, which they've openly admitted they want to cool the planet a little bit because they're afraid of global warming, et cetera, yada, yada. And I think that there's a lot of reasons they're doing it. And I wonder if the atmosphere is dying, or if there is something out there that they don't want us to see, so they're blocking it as best as they can some days. Because if you look at the patterns, like I've traveled the country extensively, and certain days they spray more than others, and certain states get sprayed more than others. The mountainous states I've noticed get sprayed a lot more than out here in Texas. Like Colorado gets sprayed heavily, Utah gets sprayed heavily, New Mexico. And I sometimes will see the skies and I'll see this bizarre red hue. And I'm like, is there some type of binary star out there it's really far away and it's not going to hit the earth, it's not going to destroy the earth, but people, if they saw it, they'd freak out so bad that they'd head to the hills and quit their jobs, whatever. So the government's trying to keep order by blocking certain parts of the sky at certain times. And if I could get access to the global network of where they spray, what days they spray, and then link that up to the orbits of the sun and the stars and everything else, and get some people a lot smarter than myself to put it all together and maybe have a software program to run it, then we could find out where this thing might be. But the skies are just so weird sometimes, man, with that reddish color. And then I've heard that might have something to do with the lithium that's been openly admitted that they're spraying into the atmosphere. Then I'm thinking to myself, why do they need to spray lithium in the atmosphere? Are they that concerned about the people waking up to something that they have to keep them in a specific state mentally? I mean, they're like, okay, they're going to be so pissed off they know what we're doing. We got to keep them sprayed with lithium. So they'll watch the latest mind control programming. So a reset could happen. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I'm certainly prepared for it as best as I think I can be at the moment. And I think it's a good idea to have some type of survival plan and, way to, for example, I mean, look what happened just in Houston when there was that nasty weather out there. A lot of people were in trouble and they had to rely on somebody else to get them out of that situation. So do you want to be the person getting help from somebody else, or do you want to be the person that's okay and can help somebody else if they need help? I would much rather be in a position where I could help somebody else, not where I needed help.
Very good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, anything you got coming up, anything new going on with you that you'd like to tell us about?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm hoping to move into the mountains here pretty soon. And I am still in the process of a mobile studio. And I'm also in the process of an art gallery, and also in the process of some type of studio that will be like a home base. So I want to have people like you and like others that listen to alternative media, that are searching for the truth, that, starting channels, getting the information out there. I'd like to be a part of a network where we could share this information with the world and have like a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming system. People from around the world, in the States, overseas, etc. People from different professions. And that way, instead of just having to rely on the brain drain media or the mainstream news. And here's the thing, with the mainstream news gets a bad rap a lot of times. And at the same time, they offer a lot of good stuff too. So it's like you have to kind of shift through that, because if the mainstream news wasn't there, a lot of the information the alternative media does news on wouldn't be able to do the news because they wouldn't have it. You know what I mean? So we have our own interpretation. And yes, the mainstream news has their own masters that they have to comply to oftentimes, not always, but it still needs to be there. So I would like to offer a platform where if something goes down, we can have people there on scene, and we can bring stuff that you're not going to get with cable or with satellite or with streaming networks, because it's going to be there. We're going to be in the trenches. If there's a UFO, we're going to find it. You want to go to Skinwalker Ranch and you can't get in too far? Well, guess what? Maybe you've got a friend. Like, for example, I got an email from somebody that lives close to Skinwalker Ranch, one of the most paranormal places in the world. And I was going to go out there because I was in Utah. I wanted to get a hold of this person. I'm like, hey, I'm here. And they never got back to me. But Skinwalker Ranch, everybody wants to know what's out there. But really all you have is a very little information yet. And these websites that say, oh, there's all these goblins and gremlins and everything else out there. But wouldn't it be cool if you could set something up to where you're across the street, you've got these systems that can see in the dark. You're out there for a week, for a month, 24/7. You're recording, you're streaming, and you're streaming this stuff. So when it happens, boom, there it is. The whole world could see it, and you're not going to get that somewhere else. And then they've got a few cool outlets out there. For example, I really like to watch Destination Truth with that one guy, real nice guy to watch. But even those shows, it doesn't seem like anything ever really big happens. They almost get there. They almost find it. They're almost there
at the end,
but they never quite get it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get it. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to bring it to you. So that's what's coming up with Leak Project. A lot of opportunities. And one more thing. Sorry, so glad you asked. I'm working on a screenplay. So I'm working on a screenplay, and I don't know if we're going to turn that into a series or a movie. But I'm working on that with my friend Brady Shalley. She's the one that does this custom art. So I'm writing the script, and then she's basically putting together the background.
Wow, awesome!
Yeah.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that stuff. Keep us updated on all that.
Right on. I will, man. Thanks for the opportunity to come on the show.
Oh, thanks for coming again, Rex. And I'd like to have you back on again soon.
Right on. I'll be here. A lot of good stuff. I did like 5 podcasts today, so.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Right on. Thank you so much. Be the change, everybody.
Thank you.